Hi, Brodie.
Hello.
Brodie, Dr Cooper, hello.
Hello, Dr Cooper.
The doctors at work here.
What do you do?
Psychiatric doctor.
Okay, that's great. Are you a doctor, so a consultant psychiatrist? Or?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You look quite a lot like the guy in the picture. Should there be any codes or anything on that? Or is it anything else on that plastic ID other than just a sort of...
Just got the Devon Partnership Trust, which is...
It's just got a logo and some writing, it doesn't...
Yeah. What are you worried about? It doesn't look real.
It looks kind of real, it just looks a bit basic. Have you got another one you can compare it to? Can I see someone else's just to check? Is that right?
Yes, you can.
Don't have mine, sorry.
You don't have yours?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's your name?
My name's Dean. Yeah.
All right. How do I know that's your name?
Yeah, so one of these days I'm going to bring my name
Okay.
tag with me. Yeah.
All right, mate. Well, I'm not happy for you to practice medicine if you can't identify yourself with the verified photographic ID in line with the Nursing and Midwifery Council guidelines. That's a private meeting. Please tell that person that was busy. Is that all right?
Yeah, they'll go for me to answer it.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Dean, I'm not happy for you to be involved in my care if you can't, if you haven't got the correct uniform, unfortunately, mate, because that's not, doesn't adhere to policy.
So,
And
I'm the ward doctor.
yeah, so am I, mate. I just haven't got my ID. Do you know what I mean? I'm the ward doctor. I just haven't got my ID today. I'm just wearing this white top because I'm the ward doctor.
So,
So you should have bought it. It's in your job contract. It's also in the legislation and the policy documents. So if you haven't got photographic ID, I'm afraid I'm not happy for you to be involved in treating me. It's very standard practice. If you were in A&E and someone came up to you and said, "Hello there, I'm a doctor. I'm just going to pop this needle in your arm," and they said, "Oh, have you got any idea?" And they said, "Actually, no, I don't." I think you'd feel very comfortable about that, would you? You seem like, fairly astute guy that's got a good broad knowledge of health and safety. So yeah, that'd be great. Okay. Well,
He's a doctor on the ward.
Yeah, and I'm the King of England, but he hasn't got an ID to say that, mate. And if he doesn't, then he's not. I'm not comfortable for him to be in the meeting, unfortunately.
Well, he needs to say, because I'm vouching for him. He's the doctor
Yeah,
on the ward,
well,
and this is a nurse.
Yeah, I've got a voucher for a free haircut at Tony and Guy, but that doesn't mean anything in law, mate. So
So who do you trust?
I'm not answering any questions about anything until that man leaves the room, unfortunately. He hasn't got. So as I said, I'd really like it if anyone who's not a qualified medical professional leaves the room.
Well, they'll all be staying now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you'll be alright. What's your worry?
I'll be here every day, so yeah.
What are you worried about?
You've got a General Medical Council number, Doctor.
We all do.
Can I have it, please?
3322060.
You got a pen?
You're going to check?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you got a pen so I can write that down?
I don't know.
Well, you don't have a pen in your bag.
I don't have a pen in my bag.
Could you get me a pen?
When the meeting's done.
Well, how am I going to? What if I forget between now and then?
You won't.
That's
Why
that's
would
my.
we something that why would we make it up?
So, have you got a pen to write down your General Medical Council number?
I said no.
So you haven't got a pen in your
I
bag?
haven't got a pen in my bag.
Could you go and get me one from the office?
No.
Is that because you don't want me to take a note of your General Medical
Well,
Council
you
number?
can have it. 3322060.
3322060. And your
Yeah.
second name?
Cooper.
COOPER.
That's it.
Your first name?
Michael.
Michael. How long have you been practicing medicine,
Yeah.
Michael?
Well, we're here to talk about you, aren't we?
Well, just
So-
before we do, I'm going to talk about you because I'm allowed to do that. So
Yeah.
I'd just like to know. I'd just like to know
can I say
when
this?
you can say whatever
I'm
you
a
want,
consultant
mate.
psychiatrist here, and I've come to talk to you about why
So where do you work as a consultant psychiatrist?
So here,
Which is where?
on this ward, and
Which
over
is-
there.
Which is on which ward do you work
So
on?
you're on a PQ ward now.
This is an acute psychiatric ward, isn't it?
This is a PQ ward.
So this is a psychiatric intensive care unit.
That's right. That's where you
The
are.
Junipers ward.
That's right.
Okay. And do you work as a day-to-day on the Junipers ward, Michael?
So I'm covering Katie White, who's away on holiday at the moment.
So you're covering the normal
That's right.
consultant psychiatrist. Okay.
So
Where's
she's back
your
next week.
office? Like, where do you normally work?
So this is all a bit too much.
No, it's not. It's perfectly reasonable. I just want to verify the consultant I'm talking to.
Well, doesn't matter what I say, I don't think it'll verify it for you, will you?
Well, it will. If you answer the
believe it.
questions, you that's fine. I haven't got a problem with that.
Can we ask why you're in hospital? Why are you under section 2?
I'd like to verify your credentials before I share my confidential medical information with you. You've got a member of staff who's not got a photo ID. Unfortunately, he's not the only person either. He's the third person today. Ask people to wear a correct uniform. That's what the NHS do, mate. The NHS do it, and the reason they do it is in case situations like this arise where people's rights aren't being.
So you think you're not in the right place? You're not in the hospital?
No, I think that he hasn't got an identification card, and I think that the NHS prescribes that and makes that mandatory, especially for assessments regarding, especially for medical consultations. Can't conduct a medical consultation without a photo ID card, and he doesn't have one. Asked you for your GMC number, and nobody's willing to get me a biro to write that down.
What do you think that means?
I think that's circumspect. I think your facial expressions, you're becoming you look quite uneasy, and you're becoming quite pensive and aggressive.
So what do you think it means?
I think it's a representation of a poor sort of character, and I think it probably is demonstrable of a wider set of crimes you're aware of. So
Wider set of crimes.
So where do you
wider set of crimes here?
At Devon Partnership Trust, and yes, specifically in this building,
What type of crimes are they committing here?
You can discuss that with the National Crime Agency and the FBI. They're monitoring the situation very closely. The admin, as I'm sure you're aware, it's, I don't think there's, as I'm sure you can't possibly think that this isn't being, that what you're doing is not been noticed. I mean, I'm sure you're aware of that.
You're really worried about being here?
I'm not worried about being here. So,
why not? If you're in a place where people are committing crimes, doing things.
You seem like a wanker to me, but I'm going to ask you for some more basic questions, just so that you can, if you want to sort of squirm and sort of behave like a insubordinate, supine prick, then you're welcome to do that. But I'd just really like to know where your normal office is, mate. So you've given me your GMC number. That's what
I'm not going to tell you where that is.
You're not going to tell me where you normally work. Okay, that's fine. So who's your line manager? Who do you report to? You have to do that.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do.
So
if I wanted to make
FBI?
So if I wanted to make a complaint,
Well, you can have the PALS number to make a complaint.
and how can I do that if I don't know? If I don't know.
The staff will give you you've got my name and my number. You can make a complaint.
Well, I haven't got your number. You've tried your best to avoid. Somebody could have just nipped out and got me a biro.
What are the FBI doing?
I don't know. Why don't you ask them? It's not. No, I
I
don't
don't know that the FBI are here.
Neither do I. I don't work for them, so I haven't got any.
How do you know the FBI are here?
They aren't, as far as I'm aware.
Oh, you just said they were.
No, I said they were monitoring what's going on, which they are.
The FBI work in America, don't they? They're not interested in Devon.
No, they work across Europe. Yeah.
But they're the Federal Bureau, and they work in America. The CIA work outside of America. The FBI work in America.
They work across Europe. Yeah, they work.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. Well, and every day's a school day, but yeah, they do.
Yeah, fair enough. So what are they doing? What are they interested in Devon Partnership Trust for?
It's got nothing to do with my care, mate.
Crimes have been committed.
This is nothing to do with what you're being paid, or perhaps being given money in sexual favours, or there's a slim chance threatened and coerced, in which case you have a modicum of sympathy on my behalf into doing so. We can't really. So you don't want me to write down your GMC number. I've asked for a pen, and you've told me that nobody can go out and get one, and that not any three of you has got a biro in amongst your bag or any of your possessions to note down your GMC number, which is as it is. You won't tell me. I'm not going to answer any further questions regarding the security services. Okay. It's none of my concern. It's not relevant to this meeting at all.
Have you got a mental health problem?
So I'm not going to discuss my mental health with you unless I can verify. At the moment, you've got somebody that guy who's just somebody wearing a black tunic who could be absolutely anybody. Hasn't got a photo ID. How do you feel about that in terms of your?
But I'm not sure that ever we say we'll be able to verify it because you think it's something to do with the FBI or we're coerced or
the NHS,
or something.
You're just capitalising on everything that you can. You're trying your best to get bolt holes which you can use to sort of.
What you said.
These are things which you're avoiding what I'm saying to try and capitalise on things which you can use to paint as a delusion, which I understand is your job. That's what you do that's what part of being a psychiatrist is.
Paint as a delusion.
So this guy hasn't got a photo ID, has he? So how am I supposed to know? He could be anybody, couldn't he?
Who do you think he is?
Well, at the moment he's a man in the black tunic.
Oh, who do you think he might be?
Well, you're asking me to speculate a delusion, if possible, which I appreciate would make your job easier. And I'm not going to do that.
What is my job?
Well, so far you've claimed an NHS employee, but you've been hesitant to verify your GMC number. You don't want me to write that down. You've not provided anybody to get a pen or to give me any record of writing that down, because you are concerned probably that that's going to link to misconduct. You don't want to tell me where you work. When did you start working for the NHS?
Yeah, I told you I work here.
Yeah, when did you start working for the NHS as a consultant in your role?
I think I've answered all the questions.
Except for the one I just answered.
Well,
so when did you start working for the NHS?
What you'll do is you'll never be reassured, will you? Because
Oh no, that's an aspersion.
you're
which is
worried.
baseless.
You're
I'm just
worried
going to
about
ask you a
the
series of 5 or 6 questions, then I'm happy to get on with the consultation. But you failed to answer. Well, I've asked you, when did you start working for NHS?
Yeah, well, that's relevant.
Well, it isn't irrelevant. It's perfectly reasonable, rational, and it's relevant to me.
I'm a consultant psychiatrist. I work here. You've got my name. You've got my GMC number. That's
Yeah,
what you
I've
need
already
to know.
got that information. Thank
There
you.
you
I've
go.
asked you when you started working for
That's it.
NHS.
So you're worried about the FBI. You're worried about
No,
us
you're desperately
taking a job.
trying to capitalise on that to avoid asking a question that might identify you.
As-
Because as somebody who's worked for the NHS for how long? How long have you worked for NHS?
Why do you think I'm desperately trying to do something?
Well, because I've asked you the same question 3 times, and you've tried to derail it by
What do you think
saying
the next
by
one is?
capitalising on FBI, because you think that that's preposterous and unfounded, and would be quite good substantiation for a delusion, because unless I can tell you that they've been monitoring a child sex trafficking ring specifically involving members of Devon Partnership Trust, and I can evidence that, which because it's classified, obviously I can't, you can then paint that as a delusion and cover up the child sex trafficking which has happened within Devon Partnership Trust, which if you have not been involved in it is pretty unenviable task and a pretty awful thing to have been paid and tasked to do. There's every possibility that you would have been involved in it, but I hope you haven't. So when did you start working for the NHS?
Are you an investigator then?
When did you start working for the
Well,
NHS?
answer the question. Are you
Well,
an
no, you haven't.
Are you
When
an investigator?
did you start working for the NHS?
Well, I said I'm not going to answer it. So, are you,
Why
are you an
are you not
investigator?
going to answer that?
Are you an investigator?
Why are you not going to answer? Why are you not going to tell me when you started
It's not
working?
relevant.
Well, if I want to make a complaint, I might want to make a complaint against somebody, and it's good to have as much information as possible. And also for me, to qualify that you're going to do your job properly, it's really useful for me to find out when it was you started working, because you might have just started working for the NHS last week, and I might not want to be. Well, if, for example, you had, I might not want to be consulted or treated by somebody who's inexperienced. So I'd really like to know when you started working for NHS.
Well, I guess I'm a consultant, so that's all you need to know.
Well, that's not all I need to know. It's all you want to tell me, but it's not all I need to know. So
Have you got any ideas about why you're here under a section of the Mental Health Act?
So when did you start working for the NHS?
Do you mind if I ask you some questions? Or?
Yeah, I do, because I want to verify who you are first, and I'd like this man to leave the room because he hasn't got a photocard ID, so I don't know who he is. He literally could be
Have
anybody.
you got any ideas why you're here in hospital under the Mental Health Act in Exeter?
So when is it you started consulting for NHS Devon Partnership Trust?
So all you need to know is I'm a consultant and I work
No,
here.
I need to know how long you've worked here for, and which office you work
So
in.
if we're going to get stuck, then we're going to get stuck and we'll just stop.
Well, this guy hasn't got any photographic identification, has he?
So if I do have one, would that mean that you might answer questions?
Yeah, I'd be much more comfortable to have a consultation as long as everybody's got a valid photocard ID. I mean, that's nothing wrong with that.
If I were to ask you, what if it was a fake ID and you wouldn't know? Oh, then
I think you're drawing at kind of drastic hypotheses that aren't relevant here. You don't have a photocard ID. The law and the NHS policy says that you must have a photocard ID to consult under medical practice and a clinical environment. Why haven't you got a photocard ID with you today?
I forgot it.
You forgot it?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you forget it often?
Right.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. You know that you're not allowed to do that, don't you?
So,
You know that you could lose your job for consulting without photographic identification, don't you?
I see. So,
No, but you are aware NHS could contract your termination. They could terminate your employment
I'll find out.
if you persist when asked. If you try and conduct a medical consultation without a photographic identification and a service user asks you for it, and you refuse to stop practising medicine, you understand you could lose your contract of employment. I'm not going to answer your questions, mate, because you could be anybody. You're just somebody wearing a black tunic who doesn't have a photocard ID. That's all you are. And anybody, imagine if one of your family was in hospital, your mother or father, brother, sister, son or daughter, and somebody walked into a hospital bed wearing a tunic, started prodding and poking them and suggesting that they were a doctor, and they said, "Excuse me, are you a doctor?" And they said, "No, I've just bought this off the internet and walked in through the fire escape." You know, these things happen, dude, and that's why the NHS has a very strict policy on photocard ID. From the fact that you're wearing a face mask and you appear to be extremely nervous and uneasy today. I'm being polite. I'm being polite with you. I think the reason why you're sort of shaking and you appear to be so nervous and uneasy is because you're aware that what you're doing, you're aware that what you're doing presents a criminal narrative. And unfortunately, for me, that's something that I don't have necessarily much reason to believe that isn't the case, although I'm not going to allege that it is. I'm not going to say that I believe that it is, but if you don't have a photocard ID, you're breaking the NHS policy and you're leaving me vulnerable as a patient. If you assaulted me right now and walked out that door, there'd be nothing I could do. I'd say an Indian guy with a black tunic punched me, there'd be nothing I could do about it. If you told me that I had no rights under the Mental Health Act and that all of my items were going to be put into an incinerator, there'd be nothing I could do. I have no way of making a complaint against you at all because I don't know who you are. And equally, I have no way of identifying what your purpose is as part of this multidisciplinary team. I don't know which NHS trust you work for. I don't know why you're present at the meeting. Your colleague, as I've outlined, is a complete prick, but also has failed to. That's my opinion, dude. I think
it's not a very pleasant way to speak to someone, is it?
No, I don't find it very pleasant having my civil liberties eroded by gross misconduct and breaches of NHS policy. I've asked you for your GMC number. I've asked you to write that down for me.
You can disagree, but you don't need to be abusive.
Okay, I'll try not to abuse you during the course of the meeting. I don't think the character of this man who's claiming to be a cover consultant. I don't believe him to be of good character. He's tried to abstract away from my questions and be diversionary, and has tried to sort of amplify things which I've mentioned to him that the NCA and the Federal Bureau of Investigation are investigating child sex trafficking involving this NHS trust, which is true, and rather than answering my questions, he's desperately tried to cling on to those as evidence. I'm not going to answer any of your questions, mate. I'm not going to answer any of your questions because well, maybe just that one in as much as that I don't know what you're doing here, mate. If you haven't got a bit of plastic that says who you are with a photo of you, you could be anyone, couldn't you? And I'm sure that's, there's a reason why millions of people across the UK, maybe there's probably not a million NHS staff, that's probably me exaggerating, certainly a few hundred thousand people, every single one of them has got a lanyard with a photograph of them on it, with a photograph and an NHS ID badge, but you haven't got one, and you can't explain why. Your colleague's got one. I've asked him where he works, and he's neglected to tell me which office he works at. He claims to be covering for another psychiatrist,
so let me get this
and
straight.
I've asked him for his general medical counsel number, and I've asked if somebody could just jot that down on a piece of paper for me, and nobody's willing to walk 2 meters to go and get a biro and a piece of paper. He's just expecting that I'm going to remember that until the end of the meeting. So for me, I don't really feel that you're following just process.
Something's not
I'm not going to answer any questions about my trip. You're not going to stop.
An ID, don't tell him.
I'm not going to answer any of your questions. I'm not going to answer any. I'm not going to answer any of your questions or converse with you regarding my health.
No.
Right.
No. All right. Super. Yep. Thank you. Sorry about that.
So, was this a ward round?
Yes,
It would have been.
it would have been, but you weren't going to answer any more questions. Yeah, so it's not.